Tonight's sleep story takes you on a gentle journey through a sleepy coastal town. As you discuss the film, it ends with us and the ensuing legal battle with your best friend. The night is quiet, the kind of quiet that stretches wide over the ocean beyond the cliffs. The distant hush of waves, the occasional rustling of palm trees, everything softened by the late hour. The glow of the television still flickers. The movie has ended, but neither of you move right away as the credits roll across the screen as if waking up from a dream. You had watched It Ends With Us out of curiosity, not for the story itself, but for everything orbiting it. The lawsuits, the corporate fallout, the strange collision between a best-selling book and the machinery of Hollywood. You and your best friend had been following it for months, reading through the Baldoni files, poring over the emails, the termination notices, the financial spreadsheets redacted in all the right places, but still leaving just enough gaps for speculation. The kind of scandal that feels surreal at first, until you start peeling back the layers and realize how much is hiding just beneath the surface. A walk, that's what you need now. Something to step outside the tangled web of legal documents and carefully crafted PR statements. The salt air meets you immediately, crisp and cool, carrying the scent of the tide. The streets of Laguna Beach are quiet at this hour, the boutiques and cafes darkened. Only a few restaurant windows still glow with the last flickers of the night. Somewhere down the coast, the distant murmur of waves blends with the rhythmic creaking of a dock. Wooden planks shifting under the weight of the tide from an open patio, its notes blending with the steady hush of the waves. You walk without thinking about direction, the conversation unfolding as naturally as it always does when it is just the two of you. At first, you talk about the movie, how its tone feels confused, how certain performances have moments of something genuine before slipping into something else entirely. The rooftop scene lingers in your mind, bizarre in a way you can't quite put your finger on. The blocking, the delivery, the strangely unnatural way the dialogue is paced. It feels like a moment that was meant to be emotionally significant, but was instead lost in whatever behind-the-scenes battles had been fought over it. You and your best friend exchange theories, searching for an answer. And then, of course, there is what is unseen, what is unsaid. The partners orbiting the scandal, the ones who remain just out of frame. The presence of Ryan Reynolds looms in the background, the influence of an industry veteran married to a woman at the very center of the dispute. You've never thought of him before, but now you wonder the shadow his long arm has cast over this entire ordeal. And then there's Justin Baldoni's wife, a figure far less discussed, but perhaps, in the end, more powerful. You imagine her urging him to document everything, to record the voice notes that would later be used as evidence. You picture her seeing what no one else could, the unraveling before it even began, her quiet foresight shaping the choices that would protect him in the end. You think about these private moments, the ones that happen behind the closed doors of both homes and studios, about the way power shifts, not just in boardrooms, but in quiet conversations at kitchen tables, in a marriage, in the basement that Baldoni was forced into during the premiere of his own film, where he would hear the muffled sounds of the audience above, the applause meant for something that he had once held in his hands, but that would never belong to him again. The muted acknowledgement that his own work was playing just out of reach. A decision made not by accident, but by design. A punishment, perhaps, for resisting too much, for fighting for something that was no longer his to claim. You picture him, sitting there, the dim glow of his phone casting a faint light on his pale pink suit as he listens to the distant echoes of what could have been. The more you talk, the more the movie itself feels like a ghost of a once resolute intention. And soon the discussion drifts. The legal drama, the behind-the-scenes chaos, the slow unraveling of what was supposed to be a meaningful adaptation, one that could surpass the quality of its source material. The press tour mismanagement had been the first real clue. The contradictions, the misplaced brand marketing, the aggressive pivoting when asked about Baldoni, the refusal to credit his involvement, the insistence that the film had always been what it was meant to be, despite the clear documented changes. And then there were the costume budgets, the absurd, disproportionate spending justified under the guise of authenticity while the other departments were gutted. The baffling decision to dress her character in 2 pairs of pants at the same time, as if that choice had some artistic merit beyond sheer indulgence. The insistence on reworking costuming to fit an exaggerated aesthetic vision, draining funds that could have gone toward refining the script, hiring experienced crew members, or even preserving the film's original tone. The studio shifting timelines, contracts breached in broad daylight, the attempt to rewrite the history of the film before it had even premiered. Somewhere in the thousands of pages of legal filings, the picture becomes clear. The initial budget projections that suddenly change course. The studio's insistence on reshaping the film into something it was never meant to be. The sudden creative control shifts. Wayfair had been given assurances, protections in writing that evaporated when tested. The court filings reveal the quiet frustrations of emails left unanswered, of meetings that took place without the people who had once been at the center of the project. And then, of course, the abrupt termination weeks before final negotiations. Baldoni's claim is that they cut him out entirely, replaced him with a team that had no emotional investment in the film, in the story it was meant to tell. The studio, meanwhile, frames it differently, painting him as unwilling to adapt to the realities of the industry. The case itself is still unresolved, and in the middle of it all, there's the film. It exists as proof, something caught between two warring narratives, dissected frame by frame in public filings. At some point, you realize you have wandered further than you meant to. The night has stretched around you, wrapped you up in its quiet, and now there's nothing left but the sound of your own footsteps, the occasional distant rush of a car passing by, and the heaviness of knowledge, not just the surface level headlines, but the actual filings, the dense, winding legal arguments buried in court documents. You've read them all, hundreds of pages, line by painstaking line, breaking down precedent, intellectual property disputes, breach of contract claims. The entire case has embedded itself into your brain like a shared memory. The hush of the ocean, the cool air against your skin, the warmth of a conversation that no longer needs words. All of it folds into the quiet of the moment. And something else, too. Something unspoken but understood. This night, this strange, winding discussion has left you closer. There's something about sorting through the wreckage of something so fractured, so publicly unraveled, that makes your own understanding of each other feel clear. In the midst of a story filled with division, the two of you have arrived here, side by side, steady in your shared knowing. A legal battle like this isn't just about money. It's about something deeper. Ownership, control, the way an artist's work can be reshaped into something unrecognizable by the people who claim to support it. It's about what happens when a story is no longer in the hands of the person who first told it. And somehow, in unraveling all of that, you have found something else, an understanding of your own ability to interpret, to make sense of something so complex together. The night stretches long, but you don't mind. Some discussions deserve time. Some stories aren't meant to be consumed in passing. They're meant to be sat with, considered, worked through. You and your best friend have spent so much time with this one that it almost doesn't matter what the courts decide anymore. The real story isn't in the verdict. It's in the way it's been argued, twisted, reshaped over time. And it's here, in the quiet, sloping streets of Laguna Beach, in the steady rhythm of your friendship. Without even realizing it, you both have arrived at something solid. An understanding, a quiet certainty, a feeling that in a world of shifting narratives, of stories rewritten and retold, this conversation, this moment, is something real.